I'm honestly torn on how to feel about this episode because on the one hand, I appreciate that the battle between Liko and Diana was meant to help Charcadet get better, not just in terms of strength, but also by teaching it a very important lesson. Early in the battle, Charcadet did well by shielding Meowscarada from Flamethrower, covering for her weakness and taking advantage of its ability Flash Fire to get a power-up. However, when it tried doing this again later in the battle, this time against Flare Blitz, Diana knew what it was going to do, so she had Wash Rotom use Hydro Pump, which is of course bad news for Charcadet, forcing Meowscarada to protect it instead, which leads to her downfall. Had Charcadet trusted her to look after herself, it wouldn't have ended up inadvertently putting itself in danger, forcing her to protect it instead. The protector ironically became the protected. The lesson here is simple. While it's admirable to want to protect others no matter what, it's also important to believe in them, that they don't need constant babysitting, that they too can protect others and themselves. Teamwork is all about trusting and looking after each other. It's a valuable lesson and one that leans heavily on what makes Charcadet stand out as a character, its fierce, knight-like instinct to protect others. This episode takes what is arguably its greatest strength and makes it far more compelling by turning it into a weakness as well, making Charcadet a more interesting character. This is just fantastic, and I love that Charcadet takes the lesson to heart, and it proceeds to lean into its other defining trait, its unyielding courage even in the face of overwhelming odds. With Meowscarada down, the battle becomes a 2v1, yet Charcadet stands tall. It battles well and admirably, defeating Wash Rotom despite being at a type disadvantage, and giving Arcanine a good battle despite the gap in both power and experience. Better yet, its courage, effort, and it embracing such a powerful lesson are rewarded with a new move, Fire Spin. We also learn in this battle that Charcadet knows Takedown, so this is just a wonderful Charcadet episode. I'm a huge fan of how it makes Charcadet better as both a battler and a character. On the other hand though, I just don't like that this came at the cost of Liko and Meowscarada. Meowscarada got knocked out, which is bad enough, but what really bothers me is that all it took was one hit. Now yeah, Meowscarada is weak to fire, Flare Blitz is one of the strongest fire-type moves, and the Arcanine makes it even stronger via stab. But come on, how many times have we seen Pokemon in the anime take multiple super effective hits and they still don't go down? It's even worse because the last time Meowscarada faced Arcanine, she was still just a Floragato and she took a Flare Blitz and got back up. She was only graced, yes, but she still took some serious damage, and this was after taking an extreme speed head on. Now sure, Arcanine is undoubtedly stronger than it was back then, but so is Meowscarada. She is even fully evolved now, so I think having her go down in just one hit is a bit unrealistic. Clearly the story took precedence here. She had to go down to teach Charcadet a lesson, so logic took a backseat here. There's no doubt in my mind that she would have got it back up had this been a battle Liko had to win. And speaking of Liko winning, she of course didn't win. which again is another thing I don't like, and it's obvious why. Even if you put aside the fact that I like her and thus I want to see her triumph and hate to see her fail, having her lose like this just feels wrong. Especially this late in the game and against someone she already defeated. Not to discredit Diana, of course. She's obviously very skilled and strong. I understand that the deck was stacked against Liko. Since Charcadet is still inexperienced, her Pokemon were both at a type disadvantage, and Meowscarada just had to take an L here for the sake of the story, tipping the scales further against Liko. But still, I just hate seeing her lose. As for the battle itself, well, it was alright. Pretty standard for this arc. The pacing and the flow are rough, and while the animation is slightly better than usual, it's far from remarkable, and the choreography remains too static and simple for the most part. Still, there are highlights, namely Charcadet grabbing Rotom mid-hydro pump, spinning it around, launching it, and finishing it with a takedown, and Charcadet taking an extreme speed head-on, holding onto Arcanine, and spraying it with clear smog at close range. These are genuinely fun, epic, and creative moments that elevate an otherwise lackluster battle, allowing it to still be somewhat entertaining. Beyond the battle, the only other thing I want to address is the new information Diana provides regarding Terapagos, namely that it couldn't get rid of all the Lacueum back in Laqua because it didn't have enough power to do so even with the heroes helping it. Diana believes that given that Terapagos has the symbol of every Pokemon type on it in both its Terrestrial and Stellar forms, it might need to draw power from all 18 types in order to have enough power to vanquish Lacueum for good. This brings up several interesting questions. Does Pagogo need 18 different Pokemon, one of each type, in order to be at full power? Do dual types count for 2, meaning that potentially it could need as little as 9 Pokemon? Do said Pokemon need to be as strong or as special as the heroes? If so, does this mean that Liko and company will have to find Pokemon like them, much like they had to find the heroes themselves? And if they don't need Pokemon like this, can they just have their own Pokemon lend Pagogo their power, potentially narrowing down the pool of Pokemon Liko and friends will catch to just types they don't have? And combining both sets of questions, do the heroes already count as 2 types each, seeing as they are all dual type? This episode definitely reignited the mystery of Pagogo, even setting up a reunion in the future with the authority on the matter, Briar, who makes a hilarious cameo appearance in this episode as she struggles to meet the deadline for her book. Finally, I just want to mention 2 things that relate to the previous episode. First, Diana shows up with not 1 but 2 Pokemon she didn't have before. Wash Rotom and Rebaroom, who she shows up with in style, a clear reference to the Starmobiles in Scarlet and Violet. One of these 2 might be the Pokemon she captured off-screen with Amber. Clearly, this wasn't a one-off. Diana has been quietly expanding her team in the time she's been away. Second, Uruto learns who the heroes are, and he realizes that they are the Pokemon he saw in cages, adding value to a seemingly unimportant moment from his perspective, episode 107, and the story overall, just like I expected. Also, speaking of Uruto, I love how he and Diana hit it off right away. They both chose to call the observation deck of the Brave Olivine home instead of an actual room, so they are very much alike. It also goes without saying that it's just wonderful to see Diana again. She never disappoints. She always manages to push both the characters and the story forward whenever she shows up, and she always does so with incredible charisma and charm. She's definitely one of my favorite characters in Horizons. The only bad thing about her is that she never sticks around for very long. So overall, this episode was pretty good. Charcadet's growth, both as a battler and as a character, was beautifully executed, delivering one of its best showings yet. But this unfortunately came at the expense of Liko and Meowscarada, whose losses felt forced to serve the story. The battle itself, while far from great, still had some standout moments that made it enjoyable. And Diana's return brought meaningful story progression and plenty of intrigue for the future with her new theory about Terapagos. It's an episode that expertly balances action, mystery, and character development, but stumbles a bit in terms of execution. It's far from perfect, but a thoroughly entertaining and meaningful episode nonetheless. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, feel free to click the links on screen. And if you'd like to support the channel and help me keep making content like this, you can find all the ways to do so in the description and in the pinned comment. Whether it's through a small donation or just watching and sharing, every bit of support means the world to me. Thank you so very much for watching, and let's meet again in the next video.